Hi, Shelley from Spin Cushions here. Today I'm going to do a quick video showing you how to make a traditional granny square my way. You can find the pattern on my blog for free in an ebook form that shows you every step of the way. It's called Granny Square Crochet for Beginners. Free to download, and it has photos of every single step I'm going to show you here today. Right, so starting off, I'm just going to show you how to make initially a single colour one. After I finish that, I'll show you how you can change colours. So, to start off, you need some yarn and a hook. Just use whatever hook size is recommended on the yarn label. And we're going to attach our yarn to our hook with a slip knot. Now I do that by crossing the yarn over like that, turn my fingers over, poke your hook underneath the front loop, pull that back one to the front, and then see those two things through the circle? Pull both of those until it's tight on your hook, and then just pull one, and there you go, you've joined your yarn with a slip knot. Now to start off a granny square, you need a circle to work into to start off with. So how we're going to make that circle is we're going to chain a number of stitches, and then we're going to join those chains into a loop. So the first thing to do is make sure you've got the right end, the one that goes into the ball. Now you can see me, I've got my finger on that loop that is there. I'm going to wrap my yarn over my hook from the back to the front, then pulling down a little bit on this stitch, I'm going to pull that loop through there. And that is one chain. Now I'm not going to pull it tight. You should always work on this fat part of your hook, not on this thin bit. It'll be too tight. Next one, that's two. Now in my ebook and instructions I say to chain 4. When you're doing your very first one, I would say do 6 because it'll give you a bit more to work with. So that's 1, 2, 3. Yarn over and pull through. Right, so we've got 4 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to poke my hook into this first chain. Doesn't matter where, anywhere will do. Then with this yarn that's going back to the ball, put it over the hook and pull it through both of those little loops. Pull it through the chain and then pull it through that last one. Now it doesn't look like much, but there really is a loop. Can you see in the center there? That is the hole we're going to be working into. So there we go, we've made our chain we're going to start working with. Now to make a granny square, you use the same stitch all the way around. And this stitch is called a treble crochet in UK terms, or a double crochet in US terms. And you work it from the top down. So for our very first one, we have to actually work up to this height before we can start working the next stitches. So the first stitch in every round, we're going to do chain 3 that's going to take the place of our first stitch. So here we go. Again, make sure you've got the right one going back to the ball. So chain 1, chain 2, chain 3. Okay, so that's our pretend first treble stitch. Now this is how you make a real treble stitch. You put your treble crochet UK, or double crochet US I should say. You wrap your yarn over your hook as if you're going to do a chain, but instead of doing a chain, you poke your hook into the middle of that circle. Then you snag that yarn from the back and pull it to the front. And if you pull it up a little bit, you'll see you've got 3 loops on your hook now. Now to finish off, we put our yarn over again. We pull it through 2 loops. 1, 2. Then you put your yarn over again and pull it through those 2 loops. Okay, so there we've got our first treble crochet UK, double crochet US, our first stitch. So this is our pretend first stitch. This is actually our second stitch. Now can you see that each of these groups of stitches, there are 3 stitches. So whenever we're doing a granny square, we work 3 stitches together in the one spot. So we've done 2, remembering that chain 3 is our first one. So we need to do another one to make our first group. And you can see once you've made your first stitch, that hole becomes really a lot easier to see. Sorry, I'll slow down. So yarn over from the back to the front over your hook, poke it in the hole, snag that yarn from the back and pull it to the front. You've got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over from the back to the front, pull it through 2 loops, and then do that again. Yarn over through 2 loops. So there's our first group of 3. Now in the very first round, in the centre, you see there are 4 groups of 3 stitches. What you can't see hidden underneath these next round stitches are 2 chains. That chain 2 turns the corner in our granny square. So that's what we're up to here. We're going to chain 2. Yarn over and back to the front. 1, 2. Then we're going to work 3 more stitches in that same big hole. Yarn over, pull a loop up, 3 on your hook, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. Then we need to do 2 more stitches. Now the first couple of rounds are a bit fiddly and a little bit different to the other rounds. Once you've gone past round 2, it becomes a real breeze. So I've done 2 stitches, I need to do 1 more. Okay, so that is now 2 groups of 3 with 1 little corner. So just like I did 3 stitches, 2 chain, I've done 3 stitches, now I need to do 2 chain. 1, 2. Okay, now I need to do another group of 3. So can you see that that tail from the very beginning, I'm actually crocheting over that as well. It just makes it a little bit easier to hide a bit later on. So 1, 2, 3. So now I've got 3 groups of 3. 1, 2, 3. So after a group of 3 I do 2 chain, and I've got 1 more group of 3 to do. 1, 2, 3. So there you go. Can you see 4 groups of 3? I've got 4 groups of 3. And I'll explain why that circle is really small a bit later on. That's just a trick I use. But yours will probably look a little like this. So what do we need to do? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 3. We've got 1 2 chain spaces, 2, 3 2 chain spaces. We need another 2 chain space to finish off this round. So chain 2. Now we're going to finish this round, we're going to end it off, and then we'll start the next round. So we do that by joining to the top of our 3rd chain. So it's a bit tricky to see. Can you see there's like little V's? That's the first chain, that's the second chain, that's the 3rd chain. We're just going to poke our hook into that top of that 3rd chain, that back loop, and we're going to pull the yarn from the back through that loop and through that loop. Let's take my hook out and see. So there we go, we've got our first round of our granny square done. Now let's have a look at the second round, this colour here. So you can see we had 4 groups of 3 here. In this next round we've got 2 groups of 3, 2 groups of 3, 2 and 2. So we've got 8 groups of 3 around our granny square, and in between, under here we've got 2 chain, and in between, over the top of these single ones, we've got 1 chain. That's where we're going to be working into from the 3rd round around. Don't worry, I'll explain all of that as we go. So we're actually going to start off with a stitch here, and we're going to work that group of 3. Then we're going to group those, and we're going to come back and finish off with a group of 3 back here, and then we'll join up here. Okay, so remembering our stitches are tall stitches, so for our first one we need to do a pretend one, or chain 3. It's called a starting chain. 1, 2, 3. Now we need to do 2 stitches back in this big hole here. We've kind of worked backwards a little tiny bit. Okay, so in that big hole, we're only working into holes when we make a granny square. So yarn to the front, through 2, and another one. Remembering our first group of 3, in a granny square round is always going to be chain 3, then 2 stitches. So that's our first group of 3. Now to get over to the next space, we're going to do 1 chain. I know it doesn't seem like much, but that little gap is where we're going to work our next round stitches. Now into this big space here, we're going to work 3 stitches. Whoops. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to chain 2. Chain 2, which goes around the corner. But now we're going to do 3 stitches back in that same hole. If you have a look here, can you see the base of those 6, that group of 3 and that group of 3 are all in that same space. That's what we're doing. So I've got my yarn over, poke it in to that same big hole, and do 1, 2, 3. So that's our first corner done. So corners in granny squares are 3 stitches, 2 chain, 3 stitches, all in that same corner space. That's the corner space we'll be working into next time. Okay, now again, to get over to the next space, we chain 1, and then we do another corner, which is 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and then 3 stitches back in that same hole. 1, 2, 3. That's our second corner done. Now we do chain 1, then 3 stitches back in here. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and 3 stitches in this hole. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we've done another corner. So now we do chain 1 to get over to the next space. Now let's have a look. Can you see I've got 3, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3 in this space. Here is where we started. We've already done 3 stitches, so to finish off this corner we need to do 3 stitches in this same space we did our first stitches. 1, 2, 3. Now the only thing missing is that chain 2 in between the 2 groups of 3 in that same space. Chain 2, and now we're going to finish off this round by joining to our third chain. That's the first one, that's the second one, this is the third one. Let's poke it through. This is called a slip stitch, and pull it through both of those. Okay, so that's 2 rounds of our granny square done. These 2. So now we're up to this round. Now this is where it becomes a normal granny square and everything is pretty much the same from here on in. We've got the same corners we just did, 3 stitches, 2 chain, 3 stitches in that corner space. Then we've got a 1 chain space to get over, and in the 1 chain space from the round below we're going to work 3 stitches. We do 1 chain, then we do a corner in the corner. 1 chain, 3 stitches all the way around, and as we go progressive rounds you just do an extra group of 3 along each side. So the next round's got 2 groups of 3 on the side with the corners. And then the next round after that will have 3. 1, 2, 3, plus the corners. So let's go. Again, we do our pretend stitch to start, our standing chain. 1, 2, 3. Now our first 2, you go backwards into this big hole back here. That's our second stitch of our group of 3, and our third. Okay. So now we have to get over to this space. So to move over, we do 1 chain, then we do 3 stitches in this big hole here. 1, 2, 3. Then we do 1 stitch to move over to the next side bit, and this is our corner. This is where we do 3 stitches, 2 chain, 3 stitches in this hole. So 1, 2, sorry, I keep hitting the camera with my hook, 3, chain 2, and then 3 stitches in that same hole. 1, 2, 3. Now we chain 1 to move along to it here, where we do 3 stitches here. 1, 2, 3. Now we do chain 1, and we're back at the corner again, where we do 3 stitches, 2 chain, 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, then 3 stitches in that same hole we just worked into. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now we're up to 1 chain, 3 stitches here, 1 chain, corner. I'll come back when we're about here. I'll just pause it and I'll work on and meet you back there. Okay, so I've done my last corner, chained 1, 3 in that middle space. Now I need to chain 1 again, and I'm going to finish off by working back into the same place that our first stitches were in. So I'm going to do 3 stitches in here. 1, 2, 3. Now I just need to chain 2 and join up with the 3rd chain. So that's 1, 2, 3. Pull it through, pull it through. Okay, so that's how you do your basic granny square. So the next time around we'll be doing groups of 3 into these spaces as well as corners in our corners. Now if you ever get lost, my tip is pop it down flat on the table, find your corners, pull them out, and you can, hopefully that will help you see where you're up to. If you're having trouble finding where the corners are, where to do those corners, when you've finished a round, grab some scraps of yarn and just poke them through. Oops. You can even tie a little knot if you want, so that you know when you get there, that's when you have to do the 3 stitches, 2 chain, 3 stitches in that same space. Okay, so now let's have a little look at changing colours and finishing off. So let's say I'm going to change out to a new colour here. I'm going to snip off my yarn. Now I'm on the back now. That was the front where we just finished. I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to fold that loop down over the tail we just snipped off. And I'm sort of put my fingernail there and pull it tight down towards the centre. Now, to start a new colour, there's a couple of ways you can do it. This is the best way for real beginners. Find a different corner to where you ended off. That's where I ended with that tail there. Just grab your new colour through a corner space, pull it to the front. Oops. And then just do a little, sorry, I'm having trouble finding my end, like a little chain there, and pull them both tight, pull both ends tight. So that's just anchoring your new colour. Now you're just going to start crocheting like you've been doing before. We do our starting chain of chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we do 2 stitches back in this space, go over that little end a bit, 2. Okay, so that's our first group of 3 done. So now I need to chain 1, and I'm going to work into this space, 3 stitches in here. Now, can you see this tail here? Don't be tempted to crochet over it like this. I'll do it and I'll show you why not. 1, 2, 3. chain 1, because that tail is now visible if you move it around. On the back it's really visible, and it's also really loose. It can be pulled out quite easily. So it doesn't look very good, so I'll show you how to deal with that end in a moment. Excuse me. Anyway, so we just continue our granny square as normal. So now we're doing a group of 3 in the next space. And chain 1 to get to the next space, and this is a corner where I'm going to do 3 stitches, 2 chain, 3 stitches. Oops. Oh, crikey. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and 3 stitches in here again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'll meet you back here and then I'll show you what to do with the ends. Okay, here I am back almost at the start. I've done my last group of 3 along the side. I need to chain 1 to get to the corner. Then I'm going to finish off this corner by doing 3 stitches in here. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to chain 2 and join to the top of my 3rd chain, slip stitch, oops, try that again, okay, now I'm going to cut that colour off, fold it through. Okay, so crochet has a definite front and back. You may not see it when you're first beginning, and that's okay. But this is the front. You can see things are kind of twisted around each other. Can you see there's little twists, little almost plaits. When you have a look on the back, it's more like lots of bumps. It's more sort of horizontal lines and vertical lines on the back, whereas on the front they're more vertical and are twisted around each other. Anyway, don't worry about that if you can't see that as yet. So now you need to know what to do with these ends. Now, at the very end, I'm picking up the end from the very centre, threading my yarn needle, and just continue around the back through those nice thick stitches. You can pull it a bit tighter if you wish to pull up that hole. Now go backwards the other way, but go over that last one you came out of. Sorry, this is a bit awkward through the camera. Pull it through that way. This way. If you have a long enough tail, you can go up through stitches and around through those bits. I'm just going to go back the other way again. Pardon me. And I'm going to snip that off. Okay, so that's the centre end dealt with. Now, let's have a look at the last of the blue ones. So we finished up the top here. I'm going to thread my needle. I like to have little rules for myself about sewing at ends. If I can help it, I won't sew it under a different colour. I will just sew the end under the same colour. So to do that, I'm going to go through the back of these stitches till I get down to here. Pull that through. Then I'm going to go under these little, I call them legs, here at the back. Pull it through this way. I'm going to go over the first one and go underneath all of those. If you want it to be really secure, You can go down through other stitches and back around those things. This is just a sample for me, so I'm just going back a few times backwards and forwards like that. I haven't got enough yarn to go further. You can split the yarn and sew in the split bits differently if you like. So that's that end sewn from the top down. Now, from the beginning where we started our new colour, it's fairly simple. Thread your needle, and just like we did after we went all the way down, just go over the first one, through, go over the first one, back through, trying not to split anything. Excuse me. Okay. I'll show you how you can go through the back of stitches if you want, but I don't like to do this because it sort of adds a bit of bulk to your stitch. So go up through the back of stitch and then come back down through another stitch, and then you can sew it along again. Just keep sewing backwards and forwards, up and down, until you're finished weaving in ends. Oh, and when you're snipping them off, just pull it up slightly and snip off, perspective, through there, snip, and then when you pull it out, that little end will poke in underneath there. So there you have it, the granny square. Now with your ends, I would recommend sewing in your ends every time you change colour. I would also recommend not doing lots of small squares with a different colour every round, unless you really like sewing in ends, because 2, 4, 6, that's 8 ends in this little tiny granny square. But anyway, there you go. I hope you have learnt everything you need to know to make a granny square. If you want to learn how to do a few little of my tricks and tips, have a look at my magic circle video to show how to get a really tight centre. Have a look at my false treble or false DC, so you don't have to do that starting chain. Or read my seamless crochet tips on my blog. So there you go, everything you need to know, I hope. See you later.